Hey guys, if there is a strategy to exponentially grow your real estate business, double it, increase it into tenfold, or even hundredfold, would you take that opportunity? If there's a strategy to accelerate your real estate business timeline from years to months, months to weeks, or weeks to days, would you take that opportunity? If so, then this video is for you.
Now, we're gonna have to we're gonna help you dispel a lot of these myths. So if you are able to dispel these myths, some people or someone watching this video will have their lives change forever. That's our promise to you on this video. And how do we know this? It's because we use the same thing that we are about to share with you to transform our business as well. I'm Palmy.
And I'm Nancy, and we're known as
The Kitti Sisters. So we turn a $2,000 bank account into a $300 million multifamily apartment portfolio, raising over $130 million in just a little bit over 5 years.
So we started by purchasing our first multifamily properties for $6.9 million, then followed by another $6+ million, then another 16 point, like almost $17 million, then a $32+ million, $29 million, $40 million, $68 million, and then we bought another $77 million multifamily apartment complex. And then we currently building 118 single-family townhomes that will be valued between $70 to $80 million once completed. And here's the kicker. We did it all. Well, we did this without using any of our own money. Again, we did it all without using any of our own money.
If you add those numbers up, I know we were going quite fast. I'll do the math for you. That's over like 360, almost $70 million in portfolio, right? So we mentioned all this because while a lot of people talk a good game, few actually have achieved it. After speaking to obviously countless real estate entrepreneurs, general partners, and investors, what we found is that most people are stuck. Either they haven't gotten started, though they were super excited to get into this field, or they didn't know what they have to do to grow their real estate business.
So we believe that every area of your life where you struggle is likely due to lack of knowledge or belief in myths. If you want to grow, you need to stop believing these myths. It's difficult to accept that what we believe might be myth because we naturally assume our beliefs are true, right? How many of you guys can relate to this? Give me a shout out, give me a wave.
I still think the Loch Ness Monster is real.
However,
Bigfoot.
However, what we think is often based on more of the belief than a reality. To truly grow, you must love the truth enough to critically examine your beliefs to see if they are founded based on the truth or on myth, right? And if it turn out to be myth, you need to stop and you need to be willing to let go of them. So we're going to share with you the 3 biggest myths holding you back from your multifamily apartment investing growth. Are you guys ready?
Yes.
Give me a wave. Yay, give us a wave, right? So here you go. Myth number 1. I know people.
Wow, this is a super common one that we hear all the time. Sure, you may have a Rolodex, and for you young ones, you may not know what a Rolodex is. It's basically a whole bunch of cards that has people's name on it. Go look it up. So you may have, names of people like your siblings, your parents, your colleagues, anyone whatsoever, your inner circle, your circle at the gym, maybe your friend at the, juice bar, whatever. Hello, all of you.
Hello, guys.
But here's why knowing those people with deep pockets doesn't automatically mean that your next or even your first deal is just going to fly off the shelf.
The number 1 reason why people don't invest with you is that correlation or commonality doesn't equal to causation. Whoa, what do we mean by
that, right? Okay, so here's the thing. Just because you have a list of wealthy connections, it doesn't automatically mean that your capital raising efforts will be successful. Because these rich people may not be interested in what you are interested in what you want to propose. More importantly, they may not see you as an authority in the field. Sure, your friend may think like, wow, you're a successful doctor, or like, man, I love golfing with you at the country club. But that does not mean that they're going to trust you with their money, right? Facts, right? Who feel that like that's actually truthful, right? That makes a lot of sense, right? It's like in medicine. Just because you have a friend who's happen to be a urologist or like a dermatologist does not mean that you're going to be like, hey guy, like I have a tumor in my head, like come operate. It doesn't work that way, right? They don't see you as a specialist in that field. More common stories beyond that is like people who think, hey, I have a big list. We've heard it so many times. Unfortunately, big list does not mean big capital raising. We just heard from a friend recently that he literally had,
hundreds,
100 person on his list that he thought
hundreds of people.
Piece of cake. I'm going to call each person and I'm going to say, hey, I'm only looking to raise like $1 million. Of course, I can get it from this big list I have. He dialed one number, boom. Second, no, no, no. And then like it started happening so much that at the end of that list, instead of a list of yes, he's getting a list of no's, right?
And some people start ghosting him, right? So, guys, if you rely only on your wealthy connections, you're risking a lot. Your team, your dream, your goal, your reputations, and even your cash, your hard earnest deposit money.
So what does that mean? So for people who are a little bit newer to multifamily apartments, just want to explain to you what is our earnest deposit. It's similar to when you do a single family home. When you, let's say we're buyers, we love this apartment. We make an offer to the property. What happens is then like they're going to give a deposit, typically anywhere between like 1% to 3% of the purchase price. Now, in competitive markets, that amount can be higher. We've had instances where we put over $1 million in deposits. The trick is, unlike single family home, in most instances, we have to make a condition that these earnest deposits are non-refundable. That means that
It's not even the trick, it's the reality.
in some
right?
instances, not every market, okay? So in the markets that are competitive that we are in, typically you have to make these deposits, earnest deposits, non-refundable. What that means is that even if we can't raise the money, even if there's some other issues we find on the property, typically we lose that money. It basically belongs to the seller unless there's some sort of tricky situation. So that means that that earnest money becomes a big loss if you lose it. And so
Yes, for whatever reason.
So if you lose that for the reason that you can't raise money, it becomes like it's a large amount to lose.
Well, and here's the truth. We know people who have lost.
We know people, but it's not in the same way.
We know people who actually lost their earnest deposit. One, $1 million. Another incident, like $850,000. Another incident is like $700,000.
Yeah, we're smiling, but we're not smiling. Like it's not a joke, right? It's really a heartache for people because a lot of times, like for us, we put our own money in, but a lot of time they may have other investors who are putting their money into this deal as a like co-GP into a deal. And so losing that kind of money is not something easy. And if you're losing it because you weren't prepared to help raise the capital that you committed to, then that's also something difficult for you to accept, right? Like you were part of this team that did, because of your lack of ability to fulfill your commitment, the team lost a lot of money. That's not a good thing.
Yep. So guys, to attract smart, lifelong investor, you need to have ability to lead them to where they want to go. And to do that effectively, they need to see you as an authority in this field.
So, like was it last year now? Or
Yeah.
is it a year? So last year, we took a trip to Everest Base Camp. So we did a hike, right? And this is a really good analogy to what we're talking about. It was a 4-day hike.
No, it was a 9-day hike.
I can't remember now. It was a 9-day hike. We started at the base and then we went all the way up. The tricky part isn't the distance, it's the altitude. And so the way they have it is like we had to have a Sherpa and a guide who actually takes us, like the Sherpa is the guide who takes us all the way up. We couldn't do it ourselves. We wouldn't know how to do this at all.
We wouldn't even know how to get there, but most importantly, how to successfully submit.
Yeah. Because there's a strategic way he were doing it. Like day one, we hiked this much. The next day, we hiked this much. And then we dropped in altitude. And then the next day, we went up in altitude. You get the gist. Essentially, there's a specific strategy that works fail-proof time and time again. And if we chose to go like me, thinking it's 4 days instead of 9, that would have been bad, right? It's like a scenario where you want to make sure, like you want to set yourself up for success. So we were willing to pay for the best Sherpa, the money that can buy, because we don't want to guess or do any of that ourselves because we're not experts. So we trusted someone that we viewed as an authority. He may not be an authority in money. We may not seek his advice for apartments or like medical conditions, but we knew in that specific moment, he's the person we needed.
Yep. So guys, here's the hard part. Being an authority comes with its challenge, right? So number one, it requires you to step out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, this one is a tricky one for hyper successful entrepreneurs like yourselves. So we're very confident in what we're doing today. Obviously, you have a lot of success in your current businesses. Maybe you're even a doctor, a dentist, a lawyer, anyone who already has a successful career. And for you to have to expand outside of that comfort zone, to take on the role of an authority in a different field, sometimes it's difficult. Sometimes it feels uncomfortable, but you still have to do it. And there's also this other thing, Nan, that like sometimes we're faced with, which is called the imposter syndrome. So there's always this clash where like, do I know enough to become an authority? So it's like a really self-limiting belief that makes it so that you can't actually be viewed by someone else as an authority if you don't even see yourself as one? How can that be, right?
Yes. And next is accept what got you here won't get you there.
This is a super sage advice. So this is the recognition that there are certain skill sets, certain knowledge base, certain know-how that are not transferable. There's nuances to multifamily apartment business, for instance, for our business, that you can't just learn unless you've already been in the game or you've learned it from someone who has more experience than you. And so a lot of time, this is a really interesting proposition. It's like a lot of time people would never dare to even fix their own expensive car. Like I saw our friend earlier who has like a Lambo who was online. Not gonna call you out if you're still on, you know who you are. I don't think he would fix his own car, right? Like if the Lambo needs like oil changes, he's gonna be like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna pop down and do. He probably doesn't even know how to do it, right? But the thing
Even
is,
if
like,
he knows, he's not going to spend
do it.
time.
But the interesting, and like building out your successful business today, you probably didn't do it on your own. You had team, staff, member, all those things to help. But yet somehow when you come to investing in multifamily, you think like whatever got you here will get you to the next step. While you never even have done this before, you didn't even seek out guidance. You think that you could just hike up to the base of Everest without even having someone who is experienced to help guide you.
Yes. And last, understand that the more you learn is the more you earn.
So this one was a hard lesson for us. Nan and I, we went to a really good school, we think. Fight on, if you know what that means. So once we finished school, our learning stopped. It's pretty embarrassing. I
think that was like kind of like our goal growing up is like you just go to school, then you start to go to high school, like middle school, like high school, and then college. Like that's the end game.
Yeah, like that's like you think like in our mind and naively we thought like that's where the ending learning stops and you just go out and work. But that's actually the dumbest thing we could have done because we didn't recognize that we needed to continue learning. It's really what they call like never-ending improvement. And that only comes when you learn more things. And so when we started in the fashion business, before we got into multifamily apartment, we started in the fashion business. And as we were doing so well in that business, we got a little bit cocky and we thought like we already knew what we needed to know. We didn't need to seek out more information. Well, guess what? Our biggest client overnight decided to shut down all their retail stores. So just like that, overnight, we lost all our income source. 95% was wiped out because we didn't seek out more knowledge. We had no backup plan. We didn't know what else to do. And so it was a really difficult situation for us at that time.
Yep. Can you imagine the panic that we have? Like it was just us and then we only have one source of income. So without our client, we have no income.
Yeah. And because we didn't develop new skill set, at that time, there's no other choice, right?
So guys, the good news here is it also has big rewards. Becoming authority will catapult your ability to raise capital and take your multifamily apartment business beyond what you dare to think of.
Yeah. So, think of it this way, right? It's like you never want to force your investment enthusiasm on anyone. Yeah, we are obviously very hyper, happy, enthusiastic, excited people of multifamily. And we can talk to you guys. Those who know us would know that we can talk to you about multifamily for hours and hours. But here's the thing that you have to understand. Like when you're talking to people, in order to become an authority, you don't have to shove these topics down their throat. You may not even want to constantly talk about multifamily apartments when you see them. It overwhelms people and it actually like deters them from engaging. So that's like the opposite. You think that you need to overwhelm them with enthusiasm. It actually deters them from taking action. Guys, instead of actually overloading with information, drop subtle hints, drop breadcrumbs about stories. Only share enough to spark their curiosity and interest. So I'm going to use a personal example of what has happened. So during a recent visit to the doctor, I took my grandfather to the doctor's appointment, and we were talking about his medical condition, and I was asking some questions, and he started asking like, "What do you do for a living?" Because he thought I may be studying medicine, and so I clarified.
You look smart, Paul. You look smart. That's why he thought that way.
Okay, sure.
So basically, just a look. Just kidding.
Yeah. So basically, what happened was, I told him like, "Oh no, I'm not a doctor. I'm not studying to be one. I'm actually an apartment investor. I buy a large multifamily apartment out of state." Immediately, he asked me like, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Well, I buy multifamily apartment that has 200 to 300 units across the southern part of the United States." That immediately the doctor was like, "Oh, tell me more. What is this about?" What that showed was immediately the positioning change. He literally told me, "Well, you need to teach me about this." You see what happened? I didn't impose upon a rich person like my enthusiasm. I actually let him actually inquire about it. that switch made me the authority, and he, no matter what his degree says, needs my help in this field because at that moment I know more than him, right? And so that
You're
allows,
the authority.
I'm the authority. So because I allow him at his own time and pace to express interest, and maybe I wasn't expecting that to happen, right? But by nature, that's how I speak. I am now so used to that I drop these breadcrumbs anywhere and everywhere.
Or not even intentionally. It's just the way you speak.
Right. And so by that conversation, because he led or he thought he was leading the conversation, I was able to share more knowledge about multifamily and got him to actually reach out and say like, hey, now I need your help on this, right? So that's why in that instance, like again, he's the novice, I'm the authority that he needs help with.
Yes. So moving on to myth number 2. I can figure this out on my own.
Okay, so this sort of parallels with what we were talking about. The first one was like, I have this huge Rolodex of people, right? And like when we talked about like learning is earning, this part is so crucial. It's really interesting, Nan, like how in most areas of our lives, we always seek out experts or we seek out to become an expert to do anything, right? So for instance, you guys are, man, at least we've gone through like 12 years of schooling. We become like educated, maybe like a doctor would seek out even more education to be qualified, right? But along the way, teachers and professors, like we have teachers and professors guide us, just ensuring that we have success along the way. However, and this is really weird, ironically, when it comes to one of the most crucial aspects of our lives, which is investing in our own wealth and future and legacy, somehow we think that we can figure this out on our own, as though it's as simple as building a Lego set. Now, even Lego sets can become complicated, right? So
yes.
But that's something that you're expected to do on your own. So it's
how many of you guys build your own Lego set here?
Yeah, so it's like it's not even easy to do on your own, right? It's like you need guidance, and you accept guidance in every single field. Like nowadays, Nan and I, one of the things that we focus on is like, how do we delegate? How do we become master delegators? So there's tasks that we used to have to try to figure out on our own that would take forever. Here's a for instance. So Nan's buying a new shoe case, right? And immediately in my mind, I was like,
Wait, I was like, what am I buying?
amongst other things. So with her shoe case, it's like those flat packs, right? It doesn't come already pre-built. So in my mind, I immediately thought, you know what? I'm not going to try to figure out how to build that thing. I'm going to hire a handyman who's going to come and build it for us. Because the time and energy and effort, and most likely I'll probably miss a couple of screws. Like who here has like built an IKEA set and all of a sudden you're like, oh, there's an extra bag of screws.
And then you call it the customer service and say, I'm missing a screw. And
no,
they're
like you have a whole bunch
no,
of them.
and they're like, no, it's in there.
Okay, Nana's trying to tell the opposite of that story. But in my instance, what has happened is like literally there's pieces of extra stuff that I'm like,
that you don't even know.
Like
what
I don't know where it came from and why. That just tells you that like you have to accept the fact that there are things in life that you can't do it on your own, that you can't figure out on your own. When we're tackling multifamily apartments, these are multi-million-dollar businesses. This is not a small trinket. This is not even like a small like Airbnb. These are, you heard what Nan said. These are millions and millions of dollars worth of properties. If you want someone to trust you with their money, you need to make sure that you actually understand this game inside and out. You now become the person that is their fiduciary. You're their custodian of their money. And if you think that you can learn it on their own, it's not just a disservice to you, but more important, it's a disservice to the people you're raising money from because they're trusting you as an authority, and no like Lone Ranger can do this and figure everything out on their own.
Yep. So you might rely on, like that hearsay or make that assumption, or even what we call the duct tape approach, where we're just like piecemealing everything together, right?
You heard people say like, oh, maybe you thought like, oh, this is what a successful capital raiser would do. But you know what happens when you just make these assumptions on your own? You actually can potentially follow an incorrect path. You might be in the wrong direction. You might be wasting a lot of time and effort because that method is ineffective because you didn't know if it worked. You just heard someone say or think that, oh, that's what they're doing. So this can become very frustrating, especially if you fail to raise the money that you committed to or that it takes just super forever to get it done.
Yep. And that amount you needed to close your deals.
Right.
Remember, like your cash, your earnest deposit is on the line.
So instead of wondering why it's not working for you, a better approach would be to ask, who else is succeeding in capital raising and what are they doing? But more important than that, it's how can I learn from them? Write that down.
Oh my God, when you said that, that
Mm.
just kind of reminded me of our scuba diving experience. I
Oh,
mean, there was a time where like my friend's like, "Hey, you kind of know how to swim. You don't need to learn it. You just need to put a goggle and then, a regulator." I don't even know what he meant. And then he just like, "Just try." And I'm
yes,
like,
they're very dangerous. You know what I was thinking also? The first time that we wanted to, I think it was me, I wanted to learn how to snowboard, right? So two friends
"Oh
told
my
me,
God."
I literally said, hey, should I get lessons? She's like, no, don't worry about it. So don't know anything, rented
Oh,
snowboards, went up the ski lift, super scared, fell off the ski lift. Like, who here has fallen off the ski lift? You know the pain, right? Like, snow is not that soft, by the way. So, okay, I got on top of the mountain.
oh
They
my God.
literally said, go. And I was like, okay.
Which, you know what is funny?
And you know
Okay.
what? Okay, I went. I have a picture somewhere. I went. You know what happened? Face plant directly into the snow. Hard pack. I got up. I started feeling something warm trickling down my forehead. Like, no joke, like this. I'm like, what is that? Touch. There's like a stream of blood falling from my forehead. Very first time, because someone decided to tell me that I can figure this out on my own. I'm athletic. I play sports. No, it's
Mom,
not.
you know, right?
Were
That's
you
what
there?
that's what you told me to do. So she went snowboarding on her own. And then her second trip, she took me. She who had experienced snowboarding, she's like, "Nan, you get it. You just put it on." And
I was being
I
sheep.
remember like, they asked me, "Are you goofy or you're regular?" And I'm like, "I don't know."
You're goofy.
And they're like, "How do you fall? Like when you fall, do you fall forward? Did you go left or right?" I'm like, "I have no idea."
Okay.
So anyway, I was also that
So
example.
anyway, like the idea of, hey, I can figure it out on my own is
And
not.
then you know what happened? I tried that for years and I never figured out how to snowboard until I got lesson. Literally, I got lesson from like an instructor who
A
actually,
professional.
yeah, professional instructors who taught me how to snowboard. Then I'm like, oh, I know how to fall fit
Who's
that
taking
pace
lesson
already.
and like felt and like, okay, it makes way more sense,
It's
right? It
much
compresses the
easier.
time frame.
Yeah, I don't have to fall like my fat face, like, when we get off the lift anymore.
So needless to say, not only in multifamily, like we from the start when we got into even real estate, we sought out advice and counsel from really experienced people, even partnering with people who are already more experienced than us. And that's the key. We never want to be the smartest person in the room of any room, especially in a field that we are relatively new in. So those are really instances where like I hope that drives home the point. Like I understand, like don't do the snowboarding thing, don't do the scuba thing, but like just drive home the point that understand like it's okay to understand that this is something that you need help with.
Yes, and is that the more you learn is the more you earn, right? And that's how we got into the flipping house business too. I mean, whoever here flip house, wave at us,
Yeah.
say, give us a thumbs up. We knew the idea of flipping houses. You need to go find a deal. You just need to buy it, renovate it, and sell it. But then there's so much nuance, like so many more nuance
Yeah.
to it, right? It's not just like, oh, I don't know which
No,
price to buy.
and you watch those like home flipping TV shows. There's like so many stuff they skipped, right? And so like if you literally just took what you learned from HGTV, whatever, and you think you can like go and do stuff, you're gonna get like whoever here has actually flipped houses, you know for a fact that like whatever they say in those home improvement shows are not real. Do you remember that show back in the day where it's like they come and renovate your house in like a day or something? Like, oh, this family, like they, like there's a sympathetic story, and they're like, don't worry, I'm gonna send you to Disney World, and in a week come back and you have a new house. Like, how much work goes into building that house, the license, the permits, all the steps? Like, I don't know how they do it. I don't know they get permits because it's impossible to actually basically tear down a house and rebuild it from scratch in a week.
Okay,
Unless you're putting millions of dollars and you have some sort of like system to get stuff away from the city, right?
guys, can you see the power once you crush these myths, right? Okay, moving on to myth number 3. This one is a harsh one,
Yeah.
right? So, you're too focused on convincing people to give you money for your deal instead of persuading them to make a decision they already desire to make for their own reasons.
Okay, let's repeat that, right? A lot of time people think that we're asking for money. That's number one thing. New people coming into the field, like Palm Nan, like I don't want to ask people for money. Like that's their first like rejection of the idea at all of being a capital raiser. Like that is the opposite of what we do. What Nan just stated, we're not in the business of convincing, begging, borrowing,
or talking
people into doing it, right? They have to already want to do the thing that we're talking about. And that goes back to the same scenario as the first one. It's like, just because you have rich friends doesn't mean that they want to do what you're doing. And so if you think you have to convince someone, you've already failed, right?
Yes. So it's time to be tuned into your investor reason instead of trying to get them to invest for your reason, right? So the biggest player focus on their investor needs over their own. Don't try to talk them into doing something. That's what everyone else is doing, right? And they're not working. If you don't if you do that, you won't get really far, or worse, you might get ghosted.
Yeah, that happens a lot. Who here wants to be sold to, right? Everyone wants to feel like they've come to the conclusion on their own. We have a friend who's really we're going to leave his profession out of this because if he listens, he may know. So basically, we have a friend who's super successful in his field.
He's an expert in his field.
Very successful, right? Everyone looks up to him in his field. But the minute he starts trying to talk to them about apartment investing, people are like have the opposite reaction. While they used to seek him out, look at him as a mentor, once he started going and trying to convince them
the benefits of multifamily apartments,
they ghosted him. Like if you think of, even I'm so bad at this, like if even I go to Costco, Nan knows this, it's like I avoid eye contact with those people who are like, hey, I have a new air conditioning unit, are you interested? Or those solar panel people that are like just trying to sell stuff. Like, I understand their job is hard, but for me, I'm so afraid to be pressured. I would like avoid eye contact or just like, no thank you, immediately, right?
Just tunnel vision.
Imagine like no one wants to be pestered into even buying an AC versus like let alone invest hundreds of thousands of dollars when that's not what they want. Even if you think your friends or your really close friends or you're like, I'm your daughter's godfather. Come on, man. You trust me to take care of your daughter. You don't trust me to take care of your money. That may be the case. And you need to be okay with them not wanting to talk to you about this subject. Maybe they even feel overwhelmed and they want to ghost you because like, man, every time I see Nan, all she's talking about is this subject. Like, I don't want to talk to her anymore. It becomes an uncomfortable position.
They may say, oh my God, you sound really like enthusiastic about it. And then they're just silent,
Or they may say you're enthusiastic. More importantly, in their mind, that enthusiasm may actually be their like code word for what? Desperation. So, sharks, they can detect a droplet of blood from miles and miles away, right? That's also in people. If people sense that you have a sense of desperation, that you need them, that you're begging, that you're thinking about the positioning, right? You're not asking, you're not borrowing, you're not begging. But if they sense that because the way of your communicating, they're actually going to be repelled because, again, people want to be persuaded to do things for their own reason because they already wanted to do that thing. If they're not investing in real estate or they're not excited or even interested in real estate, don't try to force them into it. It's not going to work, right?
Yes. So guys, today, as promised, we have debunked the 3 biggest myths to pull you out of the capital raising drought and catapult you to become a needle mover in this industry, right? So now that you know what not to do, guys, the big question here is, what should you be doing instead? And how do you transform from status quo to industry rock star? Well, easy peasy. Step number 1 is stop believing these myths, right? Done and dusted. We just covered that, right? So number 1, number 1 myth was I know people.
Checked. Crossed
right?
off.
Number 2 is that I can figure this out on my own, right? And number 3 is you're trying to convince them or convince the people, talking to people to do something that you want them to do for your own reason.
Not for their reasons.
Yep. And this brings us to step number 2.
So, from May 20th to May 24th, we're going to be spending an hour each day virtually with rock stars in the making, taking them step by step through our strategy for raising money in our 5-day Raise More Money Challenge.
So guys, we're going to be handing over the blueprint to become an authority to attract endless investors and learn the system we have developed to consistently and repeatedly raise millions of dollars.
So if you're interested in learning how to do this, join us on the Raise More Money Challenge. That's Raise More Money Challenge. The information is also on the screen if you're tuning in on YouTube with the QR code. If you're in the Instagram, there's a
DM us OPM to join us at the 5-day Raise More Money Challenge.
Ooh, that was amazing. That was fun.
Yes. That's, oh my God, so cool. Hey guys.
Thank you.
Hi, Real Farah.
The real Farai.
Val.
Yes, so DM us.
Hi, DZ.
So send us a DM, OPM.
Oh my God. Oops. I just said hi.
Hello.
Oh my God. Kathy.
Hello, Gerard.
Hi, Ajar. Oh my God. So many people on. Ah!
Yeah.
So again, guys, if you're interested in learning how to do this, how to build your wealth using other people's money, join us at the Raise More Money Challenge by going to raisemoremoneychallenge.com. That's raisemoremoneychallenge.com. And Instagram, DM us OPM.
Yeah, it's going to change your life for the rest of your life.